5 минутах от дома на Миланской площади Сан-Феделе прячется огромный суперпротон. 34 пятиметровые травинки надувной скульптуры контрастируют со средневековой архитектурой зданий и привлекают внимание местных и зарубежных граждан. А это значит только одно – Миланская неделя дизайна, господа. Пойдемте посмотрим, что она нам готовит.
With Alcova, which was founded in 2018, we do a mapping of the city, looking for abandoned spaces or spaces that the city didn't see before. And so after having a show for 2 years in a next factory of Panettone, we wanted to change the location, and we were looking for a new one. We saw at least 30 locations, and then we found this place and we thought it was magic already before 2020. Then the pandemic happened, but we kept this, which is perfect for the COVID situation with a lot of open air.
So it was a military hospital that was presumably they needed less space over time, so some of the buildings were left unused, and this building behind us specifically was where the nuns lived. The nuns were the nurses of the hospital at the time, so they had their own sort of universes, almost like a mini convent, and they were working in this compound, so it was like a city inside the city.
Generally, we work with people that we know and are part of our net. Me, I'm a curator, I work more in the collectible design. We have different and complementary roles. Mm-hmm. He has way more institutional roles, and so we tend to bring people from different worlds to get together in an exhibition in which some synergies can come out, but we don't have a theme.
There are many different criteria, so ultimately it kind of boils down to whether we think it'll work and the dialogue between all the different pieces. We don't have any sort of strict criteria. Some of the designers here just graduated a few months ago. Some of them are incredibly established and with very big companies. We like to keep it a little bit also free and loose and not too prescriptive. And it's a natural process where we meet people through other people. Designers come in touch with us through friends who are maybe already part of the Alcova.
Did pandemic anyhow affected the processes?
It made them much more complicated in many ways, but at the same time it also, I think people feel even more urgency to go out and to participate in things that are not online right now. So in a way, it even helped maybe. I think we have so many visitors also because people have a desperate desire to be together and to do things together. So.
This place is not far. I mean, you live in Moscow. Milan is a very small city, and this is a good way to do Fuori Salone again. Not be worried to be in the center, but really explore the city, even in the outskirts. So this is maybe, I was thinking, another good side of this new process, that this location is having all the attention that needs, because the Fuori Salone is not that crazy busy event that we had in the last years. In the last edition, it was impossible to see anything. It was like a bulimic.
We try to avoid the sort of crowded, compressed situation, even aside from the COVID. We want it to be quite a poetic experience. Alcova is always, there's something poetic about it, partly because of the vegetation, and that, I think, is something that people in this moment appreciate.
Первый, наверное, день мы шли на монтаж, и буквально подходя уже к Алькове, мужчина на остановке говорит: «О, я знаю, вы, короче, делаете ковры. Я читал об этом в «Ля Република». И «Ля Република» ежедневно, то есть газеты немножко по-другому развиты, чем в России. Тут газеты популярны, их читают. И «Ля Република» проиллюстрировала вот леопардом Алькову, да, и это было очень приятно, потому что это как бы не раз потом случалось, что люди заходят и такие, то есть, может быть, не важно все остальное, но они это видели в «Ля Република». Да, и это классно, что итальянцы видят в этом что-то свое, что леопард для них, также интересен. В попытке сделать какую-то русскую историю можно наткнуться на то, что ты делаешь очень космополитичную, история, потому что каждый видит в нем свое. Не знаю, там в «Трехголовом волке» можно увидеть там, не знаю, русскую тройку или глиняные игрушки, из которых, собственно, и было взяты эти формы. Они инспирированы северными глиняными игрушками, когда лишняя нога либо голова — это вопрос одного движения и не проблема. А здесь люди могут видеть, не знаю, там Цербера, либо дракона с логотипа Ени, автозаправки, популярной в Италии, ну и так далее. Каждый просто видит свое. И вообще один из главных смыслов двух этих ковров оставить трактовку на стороне зрителя. Потому что там кто-то видит тут березку, а кто-то видит тетрис, кто-то видит кости, кто-то видит то же самое с татуировками. Кто-то вообще не видит, что это татуировки, и это классно, что каждый выбирает свое значение, хорошее или плохое, веселое или грустное.
Я уже очень много лет участвую в выставках, и такого потока народу я давно не видел. До ковида тоже не было столько людей, как в Алькове за эти 2 дня.
Как люди реагируют на новый способ освещения?
Всем очень нравится. Прямо я в восторге, потому что это первая публичная такая большая международная презентация этого проекта. И это, соответственно, первый раз, когда я собираю столько фидбэков. И все фидбэки позитивные. Люди очень любят, люди готовы покупать. И мне очень жаль, что он еще не готов к продажам, но это все идет к этому. Это портативный светильник, который адаптируется разными функциями. Зависит от аксессуаров, которые добавляются к нему. Он может быть либо настольный, напольный или настенный светильник. Сам модуль снимается с аксессуаром. И им можно пользоваться простыми жестами. Вы можете делать свет ярче или выключать, или тише. Еще эти лампы, они соединены между собой системой Internet of Things, это интернет вещей. И одна лампа позволяет контролировать систему ламп, которые, например, за нами. Это позволяет включить и выключить систему.
The idea is to create a dialogue between Italian emerging artists and Rick Owens. Rick Owens has been a huge inspiration for many designers, many contemporary designers. The idea was to have pieces that are contrasting with Rick Owens, but still reminding his pieces. So of course we have Rick Owens' original pieces here and designers' pieces that are in dialogue with that. We have onyx pieces by Pietro Consagra. We were the first gallery to represent his design works and we are very proud of it. Here it's very geometric and it reminds of the geometric pieces of Rick Owens. But it's also very soft. It's soft because of the onyx choice. Those are works that are very like flying in the air. So in a way, it's very contrasting with the recoins pieces that are very heavy, solid bronze, right? But the finishes that the designer decided to do are in connection to it because, for example, this one is not matte black, it's oxidized black, which is a reminder of all recoins, love for oxidation and roughness and, all this style that talks about materiality.
I think it fits very well with our pieces. It's really the same kind of, maybe the same process also. There's the same creative process that's behind. It's very similar, and the aesthetic result in the end, it very fits well together.
I think that there is also a good balance between, his kind of art, his kind of iconic stuff and shapes, full of meanings, and he's a master. Surely we are just a young designer that try to find our own way. For example, we came from design world, so we start from technique. So we are a designer, we're not artists, we not came from other world, and we try to develop our taste and our technique also compared to this kind of master.
I think we've chosen this kind of project because it's a prototype project and it's a kind of radical answer towards sustainability and towards a radical new approach, which is also, I think, one of the most important themes these days. And so we were choosing this kind of project that is actually going to be built. So this is what we see here is a kind of 1:20 scaled down version. The fundamental approach here is the relationship between human being and nature. So we're pretty much inspired by Marc-Antoine Laugère, which was like one of the first theoretical architects during Baroque time, and he invented this principle of the primitive hut, where it's really talking about the human relationship with nature, and I think that's something what this project should represent.
Speaking of the problems, how would you say, what are the most important problems that architects are trying to solve at the moment?
I mean, of course, what you all know, the most demanding question is to save this planet, I think. And I have two little daughters, and when you see the planet burning or New York underwater in Germany, like you start to think about, something is already visible and it's going to be worse the next 10, 20, 30 years. So I think it's really, as I explained before, there needs to be this radical change. And of course, we as architects have a certain power. It's somehow a limited power because, of course, you always have a client that in the end needs to, take money and invest in something that maybe costs a bit more but is sustainable and long-term. But this is us architects, what we need to do, and we need to push forward. And this is something that we try to do also with this project here.
This year, that is a special edition, we wanted to do something simple, very easy to understand, not sophisticated from a certain point of view. It's a very sophisticated project, but understandable from everybody.
It's the first time that Salone is in September. As you know, usually it's in April, and the weather is beautiful. And so we with Manuel Arish and Mateus, we thought to do something that remembers us the joy of the summer.
Normally I am well known for a few colors. Normal one is white. If I choose another color, I choose again white. Even I need to choose some other colors again, I choose white. And in my mind, I decided, okay, now it's time to try to twist and to combine together something completely different. And I discovered the great power of colors. And the funny thoughts and things is when I decided to use the colors, I was not completely convinced, and I tried to mix-match the color to try, totally green, totally blue, totally red, totally yellow, and blah, blah, blah. And in the end, I decided, why not? Why I don't mix-match the all different one, and we transform something in a strange, crazy collection.
I think pandemic changed the design process, creative process.
Listen, not for me, because I'm very proud of that. I was very responsible before, and I continue to be responsible. A lot of colleagues, they talk about design a little bit too much lightly. Now they start to discuss about responsibilities and blah, blah, blah. Sorry, but I was responsible before. Be responsible, it means you are responsible first for yourself, second for the community, third for the factories and the people who is working there. And last but not least, you have to be responsible in which way you use the material, how many consumption you put inside in your project. And you need to be responsible because when you design something, you don't design for now, but you design something with a long durability. And that one is the real level of responsibility.
The concept here first was to show the materials and Phoenix materials together with the Omalpa materials, and to show the contrasts and to have one make the other one disappear and appear at the same time. It's a kind of magic thing, and you have the feeling that there are stripes in the space, but that the rest is just light or transparency. And then I tried also to bring people looking at the materials, of course, differently, but also looking at the space and looking at moments differently. And so I proposed some small architectures that you can appreciate by being in them, so sitting at the table, being inside the spaceship, or swinging on the swing. And so there are moments here that you can share with others or be alone and look at things very differently.
Can you tell me about the creative process? Did it change for you during pandemic?
To be honest, I think designers were already ready for that because we knew a lot about working far away, working with computers and thinking about things differently. So I think we were kind of ready. It's a good moment for us because there are things that we were telling from a long time. For example, thinking about materials, how we should use them, etc. So we were talking about that a lot with the editors. And so this did not change. But what changed is that we are more listened to now. And we've been working a little bit more with more time, I would say, because for example, all the travels that we used to do very fast and go for 2 hours somewhere, then this disappeared, and so we have more time to work in the office. And I think that was the great part of it.
Any organic waste that goes into landfill produces methane. And methane is 27 to 80 times worse as a greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide. So anything that's organic that we can keep away from landfill does, produces a great benefit for our carbon footprint. So in here, in this whole installation, we have 150,000 eggshells crushed, colored with natural colors. So the green is chlorophyllin, like the plants we find around us. The blue is indigo, and the red is madder, all plant-based. And the idea is that we have a sustainable product. That people find practical and functional and beautiful.
How does the pandemic gap involved into your creative process?
Oh my goodness, that's a big question. So, as I told you, we are based in the Philippines. We're headquartered in Switzerland, but we're based in the Philippines. And I think what the pandemic has done, it has shown the great gap between richer countries and poorer countries. So our creativity has been very much affected by the inability of our people to travel and be stimulated, but also very concretely to get to work. Any of the makers here will tell you that production in any way is very much affected. And people need to be together to share, to imagine, to dream. And I know we all now live in a Zoom world, but it is not the same.
We just wanted to speak about the lockdown, because during the lockdown, there was the windows and the neighborhood. Then we wanted to speak about that.
Tell me a little bit about the materials that you use.
We use paper, and we made this collection with neon also. Neon made on drawing, our own drawing.
Was it easy to get all the materials that you needed during pandemic to create all this?
It was not so difficult to have the materials. Yeah, it was okay.
Расскажи немножко о своем проекте, который ты здесь представляешь.
Здесь я представляю почти свою большую часть коллекции, и это, наверное, все этапы моих проектов. Начиная с небольших ваз, которые я делал в 2019 году, постепенно развивал их более сложные композиции, и самая большая скульптура – это стеллаж.
Как ты познакомился с ROSSANой?
Я думаю, они меня просто нашли через социальные сети и предложили выставиться.
Серьезно, прям так?
Да. То есть предложили стать их художником, у нас контракт на какой-то долгий период, и заодно я выставляюсь на выставках.
Сложно было вот это все сюда привезти?
Да, большая проблема была в том, что это изначально почти вся часть работ делалась в Венеции, и потом перевозилась для галереи в Москву. И затем уже через короткое время пришлось все обратно везти в Италию.
Как пандемия повлияла на твое творчество? Как вообще, что ты делал в этот период?
Я думаю, пандемия не влияет прямо на внутренние какие-то убеждения дизайнера, не меняет, в принципе, направлений и размышления о дизайне, но это серьезно усложняет задачу экспонирования и других моментов коммуникации с галереями, с тем же клиентом, зрителем. То есть это действительно усложняет все эти процессы и этапы важные, даже производство. И приходится думать, приходится крутиться.
I have 3 projects, here you can see. This is Living Forms collection of the lamps. After we have Kadu collection of the vases, and we have forms. So they are 3 different, but they are all sculptural, handmade, made by me. Firstly, the living forms, the lamps, they are made of plaster. They are sculptural pieces with pigmented plaster, and the idea is to take your focus, your attention. So you can, together with practice of mindfulness, you can stare at them and you can be calm, get calm and find your peace. And they are not to give the light, just give a substance in the space.
How did you come to Italy? How did you meet ROSSANA? And how did you appear here?
Oh yeah, they wrote me mail. It was on May. I received a mail from them. It was very surprise for me, yes, because I just started to do this 1 year ago. Before I was working always in some interior design companies or product design companies, and with coronavirus, I started to do my own thing. And and they contacted me. So for me, this was a big shock. I want to print the mail and put it on my wall.
I'm a textile sculptor, so I studied fine arts. I've always been busy with textiles and sculpture, so combining both fields, both techniques. So I've been working with these materials for a very, very long time. So this, as you can see, I'm presenting this series called Textile Runes, where I'm inspiring Greek Roman iconography. So it was very much like taking the technique of pattern making further, like really experimenting and see how close we could come to recreate like reality in that sense. Also in the way how do we display this sort of very museum sort of like kind of display, really trying to trick the perception of the viewer when they come in. They assume this is made out of stone or marble. It's just when they come closer that they realize it's not. So I'm interested in about this rupture between our association of reality, how it is, and what it is itself.
We're a studio in Amsterdam, the Netherlands, and we work a lot with like digital manufacturing techniques. So we try to find manufacturers that have something special, and then we, sort of try to add a little bit of soul to that technology. We often work from like the inspiration of nature, so we try to find something a bit more nature-inspired, intuitive, soft, something a bit more human in a way. But then we really like to work with like high-tech manufacturing. So for example, this is a collection of 3D printed sand. So it's pretty much pure sand with a binder. And it's a technology...
So it's not going to ruin when you touch it?
No, I mean, like it depends a bit how you touch it, of course. They are, they're objects of art, so they're not really focused on functionality, but it's a really hard-wearing material. Yeah, it's like, structurally, it's like concrete almost. And it's actually a technology developed for metal casting. So it's used a lot in like very high-tech manufacturing. For example, airplane parts or car parts. And then we're turning it into more like, objects of art, basically.
We're 25 designers in one enormous factory, and everybody working in this factory are pre-selected. Basically, you cannot just rent a space there, you have to be selected to get there. So in these terms, there's no curator of the show. We are curators of our own work. And as you can see, there are many different techniques, different skills, different type of people, but in the end, we found a way to make like a show that actually stays as one. And and also many of us very often collaborate, so we know very well who's at what level and how and how his work evolves. And in these terms also it was quite easy actually to make a show like that.
How would you say, how did design process changed for you during pandemic times?
For me it was great because finally I could have actually a break. I had an excuse to say to my clients, sorry, but I desperately needed a break, so it was fantastic. Then of course all the projects started getting delayed. It was a bit complex, but it was fantastic because I also had way more time to experiment. Like I could take my time to make new experiments and to develop the ideas I had. The name is Labia, and I think it started from a gesture. I wanted to make a gesture in the space, which is kind of a statement. So I wanted to be large scale, but also to look fine. And actually, labia is the anatomic word for vagina.
Oh, is it?
This is a very cool artist working with solid glass, and partly, like most of her work, is actually What you see here is a sculpture in glass, but actually this sculpture, she didn't make the shape. She's using the protective parts from packaging, and then she cast them in solid glass, which is actually she has enormous oven, and it takes extreme amount of work and time actually to cool down, so it's a very hard and long process, and also the polishing of the glass. But she just likes to explore actually the pre-made shapes and put them in a different context in a material that will last forever. It's a duo. It's two girls which are working like, 18 hours a day, every day, like crazy. But the process behind the carpet is really cool because they start with sketches, like small sketches. When they like the sketches, they make paintings, but like real big paintings with paint, Yeah. And then these paintings are digitalized, edited, and then the carpet is produced. So it's a crazy amount of creative work to produce a carpet like that.